Good afternoon, Ms. Piri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Europe continues to fail in its politics concerning Turkey, and even sanctions are not tough or politically important. How do you explain EU's attitude?
Well, unfortunately, the European Union, when it comes to foreign policy towards Turkey, is very divided. As you know, in foreign policy, you need unanimity, which means 27 countries must agree before the EU can act. And this is where, since the beginning of the accession process of Turkey to the European Union, we have seen big divisions, and they continue to be there, which means that, unfortunately, all the EU is doing is always reacting instead of having a real strategy on how to deal with such a big neighbor, but also a neighbor which is having a very aggressive foreign policy.
Recently, in the European Parliament's plenary session, one of the discussion topics once again was Turkey and its human rights situation. Many MEPs condemned Turkey and expressed their concern regarding the human rights and democracy situation, namely there. What is next? Because the record shows that the only condemnations don't give any result.
Well, to be honest, I think it is also the role of the European Parliament, of the MEPs representing European citizens to express the strong condemnation there is in our societies about what's happening with people like Osman Kavala, Selahattin Demirtas. Thousands of people who are only for political reasons in jail inside Turkey. But the same call, we don't hear them from the EU leaders, and this is problematic. They only focus on a kind of transactional relationship or only speak out when it concerns Turkish foreign policy. But even in the last Council conclusions, we haven't seen a single sentence on the human rights situation inside Turkey. So if the EU leaders would be just as brave as the European Parliament and clearly speak out when the red lines are being crossed, I expect that would have a much bigger impact than we are having right now.
How do you interpret the fact, namely, that the EU High Representative Joseph Borrell talks about good relations with Davutoglu as if there was no negativity or problems, and he's kind of weakening at Ankara?
Yes, well, I would have liked to seen also in the statement of the High Representative even the mentioning of human rights, rule of law, democracy. I agree with you on that. Having said that, you have to be aware that the High Representative is representing the 27 leaders of the European Union, their foreign ministers. And, him having such a careful tone or a diplomatic tone is also a result that the European Union internally is unfortunately very divided when it comes to its policy towards Turkey. I think the best example, look at France in Paris and look at Angela Merkel in Germany. And these are, as you know, the two big EU leaders who have a completely different vision on how the European Union should deal with Turkey. So as long as Paris and Berlin are divided, you can't expect from the High Representative to have a stronger voice than those leaders.
Look, although the European Court of Human Rights decisions, Turkey continues to hold Selahattin Demirtas, as you mentioned, and other opinion prisoners beyond bars. Erdogan declares at the same time that Turkey's place is under Europe's umbrella. What is your interpretation to this double game?
Well, it's a lot of empty talk, to be honest. Every now and then, every couple of years, like now again, especially when the economy is not going well in Turkey, suddenly we get these love letters from Ankara. We want to get closer to you. We want to improve our relationship. But what we actually see is just empty words and no action on the ground. Selahattin Demirtas is in jail now for more than 4 years, while the highest court of Europe has ruled that he should be released immediately. Now, that is the daily reality, which is very far from the rhetoric that sometimes, every now and then, is coming from Ankara about wanting to restore ties.
During the Karabakh War, Turkey clearly supported Azerbaijan. This aggressive policy and rhetoric were condemned in the European Parliament several times, and other EU member states parliaments, and that's all, nothing more. According to you, what consequences could be related to Turkey's aggressive policy in the South Caucasus?
Well, let me be very clear, because I also sometimes get these attacks from Turkey when we speak out about human rights abuses or when we criticize the foreign policy. They say, well, you only said words. Let it be clear. When I say about the Turkish government, empty words, no action, they are a government. A government can make policy. A government is the one who is doing actually internal and foreign affairs. European Parliament is there to check on our governments and to represent what are the voices of our people. So we cannot do any other policy than making statements, right? That's the role of the European Parliament. Now, I'm afraid that this very soft talk and every time trying to appease Ankara because some of our member states are angry or afraid that otherwise migrants will be sent to Europe, that this is actually only encouraging the authoritarianism of President Erdogan. We are emboldening him rather than stopping him. And it could be different. The European Union is a big leader. We are the biggest economic bloc in the world. And as we all know, Turkey's economy is very, very much depending on it. All its foreign investments, most part of it, are coming from European companies. So it's time we start using our power smartly. And that means trying to use our economic power to make sure that Turkey does not even further drift away from European values and standards.
Many experts, especially after the last two European Council summits, talk about questioning the EU's credibility and Western values in general. What is your comment on this?
Well, I can understand that because, of course, we also have our internal problems. I was born in Hungary. Look at my father fled communism in 1956, but look at what's happening with Hungarian democracy and no respect for rule of law right now in one of the EU member states. And we see the same developments, unfortunately, in some other member states as well of the European Union. However, we don't put, opposition leaders in prison like is happening inside Turkey. Having said all of that, I do think that the EU needs to be credible inside to be able to have a credible foreign policy, and that's something we should work on. But I never met, anywhere around the world, a citizen who prefers to live under a dictatorship rather than living under a free rule of law democracy, a liberal democracy. So I don't think the model is not an attractive one for regular citizens. But yes, we do see that unfortunately autocrats all around the world are, and for 4 years being supported by President Trump in the White House, had free riding. Now, let's hope that that period is over now.
Yeah, because you mentioned about USA, last but not least, how, now that there is a new administration in the White House and the expectation is that now the US will prioritize human rights in its foreign policy. Do you think that there can be a unified Western position regarding Turkey?
Yes, I do think it could be, and there has to be. Together with the United States, most member states of the European Union are also members of NATO, and so is Turkey. So we have in one of the most important institutions, after the Second World War in Europe, we are there together with Turkey. While we see Turkey drifting away, while we see Turkey provoking other NATO member states. So yes, there has to be a joint policy together with the United States. And I very much hope that the next visit of High Representative Borrell will be to Washington to discuss these issues on, for instance, on a joint policy on Turkey.
Thank you very much, Ms. Piri. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.